The First World War started over the assassination of the Austro-Hungarian Archduke Ferdinand by the Black Hand, a Serbian nationalist group. Alliances in Europe led to most countries being at war with each other, with Britain, France, Ireland, and Russia being a part of the Allies, while Germany, Austria-Hungarian, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria were the central powers.
World War I actually ended with the Central Powers losing to the Allies and Germany having to pay a lot for the damage they caused during the war, and almost a total collapse of Germany. This was because the United States entered the war to help push back the Germans from the Western Front.
In the alternate history we were given, we had to come up with 3 outcomes of what would happen if the United States hadn't entered the World War I and the Central Powers had won the war. Our first major outcome was that the war would have gone on much longer, but Germany still had a long way to go to conquer Britain and win the war.
This defeat of the Allies would ultimately lead to reparations being put on Britain and perhaps other Allied nations for the destruction caused by World War I in compensation for starting the war. Much of Germany's contested areas were destroyed and reduced to barren lands. Germany would then make the Allies pay for the reconstruction of this land. Another impact of this would be that there most likely wouldn't be a World War II, as Germany wouldn't have a reason to start a war, as there would be no economic or government collapse after the war.
Like the restrictions and reparations put on Germany, Britain would be in massive debt due to the amount of destruction during the First World War. Britain's colonies would be freed by the Germans, but the colonies Germany owned would not be freed. Germany would occupy France, as Germany had previously owned land in France, and one of the focuses of the war for Germany was to win this land back. With France on the losing side of the war, it would be the best reason to take the contested land, Alsace-Lorraine, and the rest of France to make sure the land wasn't contested anymore. The long-standing rivalry between Germany and France would now be over. World War II also most likely wouldn't happen. This is because Germany wouldn't have the economic problems caused by their World War I defeat. Although the government may still be overthrown by the fascist regime created by Hitler, the outcomes of this fascist regime would not create another world war.
Our second outcome is that the United States would enter the Great Depression sooner. This is because they gave large loans to Britain and France to supply the war effort. Ultimately, with them losing, they wouldn't be able to pay back the loans, which would leave the U.S. with a lot less money than before. That wouldn't be paid back with the reparations placed on them by Germany.
During the course of the war, the United States steadily supplied loans to Great Britain and the Allies in hopes that they would be able to win the war. During the real course of events, the United States entered the war partially to protect their economic contributions to the war. Now that the Allies had lost the war in this timeline, the United States would be left with a huge hole in its economy, as it had just given a large sum of its money to the Allies.
This would be the start of the Great Depression for the United States. This depression also would last much longer, as the economic benefits from World War II would never happen, as World War II would never happen.
Reparations would also be placed on the United States as well with the economic crash. These reparations would be trade bans to the United States. Those allied with the Central Powers would not be able to trade or send products or receive products from the United States, effectively halting all international trade in and out of the United States. Our final smaller outcome is that Mexico would have received the Zimmermann telegram asking them to join the German alliance, just in case the United States joined against Germany. They would accept and join the alliance, and after the war would be given the lands promised in the telegram, most notably lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona.
They would most likely accept this alliance, as the Mexican-American War was still a recent event that happened to Mexico, which would compel them to take action against the United States, even if it wasn't fully mobilizing against the United States. Also, Japan would be forced to give Germany the islands that they had taken during the war back to Germany, and would be given small reparations for the part they had played in the war, and their government would be closely regulated.
Japan would be forced to give these lands back after they had crippled Germany's navy in and around Chinese waters, and would also explain the reparations put upon them. With the land the United States had taken given back to Mexico, Many would be displaced in those states as they are ushered out of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. This would lead to some economic prosperity for Mexico, as it would be able to take a large piece of land and such vital ones to as Texas would have its oil boom 2 years later. This would turn Mexico into a superpower.
In conclusion, the international community and interactions would be changed forever. Germany and Mexico and the others allied with Germany would become the world's superpowers, while nations like Britain and the United States would be crippled greatly by the outcomes of the war.